Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for joining me. Today is February the 14th, 2022. So I have some news to share with you in reading and on video from different media outsource. So uh, to begin with, Ethio-forum media is back. Ethio-forum media is very important source of information about Ethiopia, and is also critical of the Prosperity Party in Ethiopia. So it's a very informative media. Is back now, so you can check it out. It's not biased. It's factual based information with credible uh, resources. So Ethio-forum is back, which is a good thing. If you remember, the journalists were arrested and the media was shut down for a while. So it is back now. The Tigray Islamic Council also declared its independence from Ethiopia Islamic Council. So this is another blow to the Ethiopian system. So last time the Orthodox Tewahedo Church declared its independence from Ethiopian Orthodox Church, and that decision and now the Islamic Council decision is an indication that the Tigray region is becoming slowly slowly declaring its independence from Ethiopian governing system. So the Orthodox Church is in a shock, and so far no response from Orthodox Church. Also no response from from Ethiopian Islamic Council. So this is a challenge because both the Tigray Islamic Council and the Orthodox Tewahedo of the Tigray region claiming that the Ethiopian religious leaders or the Orthodox leaders supported the war and the genocide carried out on the Tigray region. That's why they claim this independence. OLF, Oromo Liberation Front, or OLA, controlling some main road, especially the Moyale, Ethiopia-Kenya border area, according to some media resources, even collecting some taxes from travelers. So they are in a large number in that area, in Borana zone, and the main road between Kenya and Ethiopia. So they are, controlling some part of that road and even collecting taxes. So the fighting between the Tigray Defense Force in the Afar region, with Afar forces plus the other forces supporting the Afar forces, so still active. It didn't stop, so we are watching it. TDF gained several ground in that area, and we are still watching it. It's an active operation. Okay, let's read other news. Ethiopian political parties council request parliament to temporarily halt national dialogue commissioner selection, resume process in inclusive, trustworthy manner. Ethiopian Political Parties Joint Council, EPPJC, a a coalition of more than 53 legally registered political parties in Ethiopia, has issued a statement requesting the House of People's Representative (HOPR) to temporarily halt the ongoing proceedings to select the 11 commissioners to lead the planned National Dialogue Commission (NDC). EPPJC, which includes members both from the ruling and opposition political parties, request the parliament to resume the process in an inclusive and trustworthy manner. In a letter addressed to Taggese Chafo, Speaker of the House of People's Representative (HOPR), EPPJC stated that in an urgent National Assembly meeting held on February 10, 2022, it thoroughly evaluated the planned national dialogue, including the preparation of the commission establishment, proclamation, nomination of candidate commissioners, and other issues directly related to the process. It was on December 29 that the House approved the Commission's establishment proclamation number 1265/2014 by majority vote with 13 noes and 1 abstention. Subsequently, the House of People Representatives Standing Committee on Law, Justice and Democracy said commissioners who will be leading the National Dialogue Commission will be selected by the people of Ethiopia, and their appointment will be approved by the parliament. On 04 February, the HOPR has issued a short list of 42 people who were nominated by the public to lead the National Dialogue Commission (NDC). On the same day, 3 opposition parties, Oromo Federalist Congress (OFC), Oromo Liberation Front (OLF), and Ogaden National Liberation Front (ONLF), issued a statement saying the process of the nomination of the commissioners was not impartial, was unknown, and lacked representation. Prior to the release of the statement, the 3 parties have also declined to join a meeting called by Taggese Chafo to discuss the list of nominees. In the statement, EPPJC recalled that following some concerns of political parties, the Ministry of Justice, Gideon Timotheus, promised to hold one more discussion with political parties before the ratification of the draft proclamation for the establishment of the National Dialogue Commission, which according to the letter, the ministry failed to do so. Political parties have been complaining about the transparency process and have been skeptical from the beginning when the Council of Ministers presented the draft proclamation to the HOPR without political parties' approval and enough discussion, EPPJC said. EPPJC also slammed the process of nomination and the selection of commissioners, saying, believing that the council is one of the pillars that should be included in the committee, we logged a complaint on our exclusion from the partaking in the process of nomination and the recruitment of candidates. According to the letter, the EPPCJ didn't play a significant role other than viewing the list of nominees' names. In the letter, the council stated that out of a total of 632 candidates, only 42 candidates' names were disclosed to the public. The EPPCJ said that the names of all the 632 candidates should have been made public to ensure their trustworthiness. there is no clear indication of the criteria for selection of the 42 candidates that violate Article 13, Sub-Article 1, 3, 6, and 7 of the proclamation. The letter read. The EPP-JC would wound up the letter by reiterating the importance of the role of political parties in the planned national dialogue. Credit at this standard. So there's 52 different political parties and requesting the parliament to temporarily hold this selection process. So they selected 42 people from 632. It seems a tough selection, but I don't see it. I already said about this upcoming election, it doesn't make any sense as long as Prosperity Party remains in power. Somali regional government accused anti-peace forces of attempting coup, colliding with terrorist organizations to destabilize region. That's a very tough accusation. Following reports of deployment of federal security forces in Jijjiga, capital of Somalia regional state, the regional government released a statement accusing what it described as anti-peace forces of the attempting to overthrow the regional government by force and colliding with terrorist organizations to destabilize the region. I don't know who are these terrorist organizations. The statement released on 13th February discussed the efforts the regional state government was exerting to address the drought that is ravaging different parts of the region. It said that 800 million birr has been allocated for response since the beginning of the drought to assist people and livestock. At the same time, the regional government has focused on alleviating the drought by providing a variety of nutrients, fodder, and water, as well as medicines to prevent diseases. However, the statement admits that given the scale and the extent of the drought, it was not enough. Many local and international media outlets have been covering the droughts in East Africa since the beginning of the drought. It said, adding that among those who oversaw our efforts are President Sahle-Work Zewde, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, UN Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed, and many others, all of whom praised the regional government's effort to reverse the drought. Over the period of last week alone, the regional government has provided 30,000 quintals of nutritious food and cereals to 46 woredas, providing assistance to more than 70,351 households in 10 drought-affected areas. In addition, 200 million birr worth of food items have been distributed to more than 38,978 households, the statement read. Regardless of these efforts by the regional government, it said that anti-peace forces were attempting to overthrow the elected government. Anti-peace forces have been plotting to overthrow the regional government. They tried to disrupt the peace by galvanizing the people, destabilizing the region, and seizing power by force. The Prosperity Party was elected in the region in the last general elections, the statement said, and accused the unidentified forces of attempting to reverse the results of the election. In the midst of the ongoing efforts of the Somali regional state government and the people to reverse the drought, these forces plotted to destabilize the region, and we call on all Ethiopians to help us restore order. Addressing regional security forces and the media, the statement read, we call on our security forces who are working tirelessly for peace in the region to reaffirm their commitment to the peace and the stability of our region, which has been ensured merely by your efforts and strength. We also call on the media to combat these attempts to spread disinformation propaganda by those who wish to destabilize the region. It also called on the continued support from investors, members of the Ethio-Somali diaspora, and the business community, humanitarian organizations, and the people of the region. We reiterate that we will work with all humanitarian actors to address this natural disaster, and we repeat that the Somali regional state government will take measures against those who use their disaster for their political agenda. This comes amid reports of faction within the ruling Prosperity Party branch in the region, and in backdrop of continued criticism by the region's opposition on the regional government response to the drought. In a joint statement released on 10 February, the Ogaden National Liberation Front and Congress for Somali Cause, a newly formed opposition group, said that the current situation of the region, which leaves millions to deal with crippling famine, hunger, and malnutrition, proves the inability of the government to act responsibly, acknowledge the extent of the problem, and invest in the right areas and programs. The joint statement further accused the regional government that although the drought has already caused significant loss of human lives, including children, and destroyed assets and livelihoods, the measures employed so far by the federal and the local government are not only ineffective to deliver the life-saving services, but have exposed the carelessness and the sloppiness of the state. Instead of drawing attention to the sense of urgency needed in tackling the drought, the Ethiopian federal leaders minimize the critical situation and the danger the Somali people are facing in regard to the drought when they visit the Somali state. Similarly, Ogaden National Liberation Front and activists are complaining about a fresh wave of crackdown on dissent in the region. The Ogaden National Liberation Front said last week through its social media that condemning the illegal detention of dissent politicians and the youth who are being denied freedom of expression, the right of association, and the right to criticize the failed policies of the Somali state government in regard to basic services and the mismanagement of drought. So that is the situation we are facing in Somali region, and the local Prosperity Party, the Somali region, the one supporting the Abiy Ahmed, they don't want to expose too much about drought or any challenge they are facing. They want to cover up. It's the same way the regional leaders did on the drought and all the other challenges we are facing in Oromia. The Prosperity Party want to talk about prosperity. They don't want to talk about drought. They don't want to talk about disease or other challenges they are facing. They want to cover it up. They don't want to tell to the international community. So by the time they wake up, it's too late. Too many livestock, livelihood damaged, and so many people impacted. That's why these people are criticizing and challenging the regional government. Now they are accused of part of the terrorist organization, and the federal government is heading or enforcing the regional government to arrest these people who ever criticize the Prosperity Party. So, you know, Prosperity Party cannot be criticized, cannot be challenged. This is about Special Envoy of the Horn of Africa, Starterfield, David Starterfield in Addis Ababa. He's already started his trip yesterday. He will conclude today, February 14, according to this statement. He's in Addis Ababa to talk to Ethiopian authorities, African Union, and United Nations officials, as well as representatives of humanitarian organizations. So he is there to conduct all these businesses, and we'll report to you if anything come out from this visit. So we don't know what, what discussion, what kind of discussion he will have with Abiy Ahmed or other Prosperity Party officials. He is there for 2-day visit. This is about from IMF press briefing. It's a very it's an answer given to a reporter or a questioner about Ethiopia's state of economy and Ethiopia's update on Ethiopia. So this is a question. I wanted you, you represent Mr. Gary Rice, Director of Communication for International Monetary Fund. So the questioner asked, I wanted you to give us an update on the state of the economy, the Ethiopian economy. We know with the hiring crisis, it seems more like before. If you can give us an update on the state of the Ethiopian economy, this is the question. What is the state of the economy? So this is IMF Director of Communication answering it in this way. On Ethiopia, we are of course monitoring that situation. We are concerned about the situation, and as I say, monitoring it very closely with heightened uncertainty on the ground and its impact on the economy. It is difficult to move to program discussion right now, but we stand ready to engage on program discussions when the time is right. So the time is not right now. Uncertainty in Ethiopia. On the economy again, the uncertainty related to the conflict make it difficult to refresh our microeconomic projections, but we will be attempting to do that in the period ahead. I think that's about all I want to say on Ethiopia. So it's uncertainty. It's uncertainty, and we don't know when they will have, dealing with Ethiopia economy or reporting on Ethiopian economy. As long as the war is going on, as long as the conflict continue, and as long as this uncertainty continue, we cannot know about Ethiopia economy. This is from U.S. State Department on operation at U.S. Embassy Kyiv. Press statement. Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State. So this Ukraine situation is getting tense and tough. I have no higher priority than the safety and the security of Americans around the world, and that, of course, including our colleagues serving at our post overseas. My team and I constantly reviewing the security situation to determine when prudence dictates a change in posture. With that in mind, we are in the process of temporarily relocating our embassy operation in Ukraine from our embassy in Kyiv to Lviv due to the dramatic acceleration in the build-up of Russian forces. The embassy will remain engaged with the Ukrainian government, coordinating diplomatic engagement in Ukraine. We are also continuing our intensive diplomatic effort to de-escalate the crisis. This prudent precaution in no way undermines our support for our commitment to Ukraine. Our commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity is unwavering. We also continue our sincere effort to reach a diplomatic solution, and we remain engaged with the Russian government following President Biden's call with President Putin and my discussion with Foreign Minister Lavrov. The paths for diplomacy remain available if Russia chooses to engage in good faith. We look forward to returning our staff to the embassy as soon as conditions permit. In the meantime, I have ordered these measures for one reason: the safety of our staff, and we strongly urge any remaining US citizens in Ukraine to leave the country immediately. US citizens seeking emergency assistance in Ukraine should complete the online form, and the State Department will follow up as appropriate. So it's very tough. Now the US embassy is moving its location temporarily from Kyiv to Lviv, and for safety of the diplomat staff and others working there, plus also the US citizens urged to leave immediately Ukraine. Immediately. Okay. This is about ongoing situation in Canada. Canada's Trudeau invoked emergency power in bid to end protests. Ottawa. Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said on Monday he will activate rarely used emergency powers in an effort to end protests that have shut some border crossings and paralyzed parts of the capital. The blockades are harming our economy and endangering public safety, Trudeau told a news conference. We cannot and will not allow illegal and dangerous activities to continue. Frustration has grown with what critics see as a permissive approach by police to demonstrations in the border city of Windsor, Ontario, and Ottawa, the nation's capital, where protests entered a third week. Despite their best effort, it is now clear that there are serious challenges to law enforcement's ability to effectively enforce the law, Trudeau said. Protesters blocked the Ambassador Bridge, a vital trade route to Detroit, for 6 days before police cleared the protest on Sunday. The Freedom Convoy protests, started by Canadian truckers opposing a COVID-19 vaccine or quarantine mandate for cross-border drivers, have drawn people opposed to Trudeau's policies on everything from pandemic restriction to carbon tax. The 1988 Emergencies Act allowed the federal government to override the province and authorize special temporary measures to ensure security during national emergencies. The law has only been used once before in peacetime in 1970 by Trudeau's father, former Prime Minister Pierce Trudeau. Earlier on Monday, 4 provincial premiers in Alberta, Quebec, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan said they opposed the plan to invoke the act, saying it was unnecessary. The Canadian Parliament would have to approve the use of the emergency measures within 7 days, and it also has the power to revoke them. So, credit for this one, Reuters news agency. This is for your knowledge. This is new discoveries in Korea. Korean Air adopt palm vein verification for domestic boarding. Korean Air customers flying on domestic routes can now pass through the boarding gate empty-handed, as the airline has adopted palm vein scanning to verify passengers' identities. This is interesting discovery. You just have to show your palm vein. So when you scan, you don't use your passport, you don't use your ID, or you don't need nothing. Just scan your hand, palm vein, to identify. According to the air carrier on Tuesday, those aged above 7 with a Korean nationality can register their biometric information at Korean Air kiosk in Gimpo International Airport departure area. Passengers who do so can simply scan their palms at the boarding gate without having to show their boarding passes. The air carrier said it expects the new process to reduce waiting and boarding time for passengers, bolstering security and reduce the risk of theft, loss, or duplication of passes. Okay, that's very good. That's at the advantages. Okay. The service will be available at 5 boarding gates for domestic routes departing Gimpo. In August, the service will become available at Gimhae International Airport in Busan. Korean Air aims to expand the service to all gates at Gimpo by the year end. In recent years, scanning palm veins for identification verification has drawn attention. The system works by checking the unique variation of each individual's vein thickness or shapes and is more accurate than palm print scanning. Experts say this is because people's veins stay the same even as they age. At Gimpo and Jeju International Airport, palm vein identification verification scanners have been used at unmanned check-in points for 14 domestic routes without having passengers hand in separate ID. Korean credit card operator Lotto Card has operated his hand pay service in 2017, which allows identification verification and payment just by scanning their palm veins at some 900 Lotto brand shops, including convenience stores, fast food chains, and supermarkets. It's interesting. The technology has evolved in recent years, no longer requiring the customers to even touch the scanner. Amazon has been developing a touchless scan system using computer vision and geometric technology to read anatomical characteristics, including bones and cartilages. Credit to Kim Dasol, the Korean Herald. So it's very interesting, really, very interesting. So it's a very interesting science. Science is advancing every day. So now you don't have to have credit card or boarding pass. You don't need, you can just use your palm vein, and the machine already recognize you. You can fly, go to restaurants, shops. You can use your palm everywhere. So that's a technology. We don't know where is the limit. Okay, this is the last reading. Taliban's. This is a very serious warning to U.S., to the United States, from Taliban, Afghanistan's Taliban. Let me read what it says. Taliban call on Biden to reverse move to halve frozen Afghan funds. The Taliban on Monday warned that it would reconsider its policy toward the United States if President Joe Biden didn't reverse his unjustified decision to return only half of Afghanistan's $7 billion deposited on U.S. soil. The United States will free up to half of the $7 billion in frozen Afghan central bank assets on U.S. soil to help Afghans struggling with a humanitarian crisis, and hold the rest to possibly satisfy terrorism-related lawsuits against the Taliban. This is from a Taliban statement in a quotation. If the United States does not deviate from its position and continue its provocative actions, the Islamic Emirates will also be forced to reconsider its policy toward the country, said a statement from the Taliban released by its spokesman on Monday. The Islamic Emirates strongly rejects Biden's unjustified action as a violation of the rights of all Afghans. Biden's plan calls for half of the funds to remain in the United States, subject to ongoing litigation by U.S. victims of terrorism, including relatives of those who died in the 11 September 2001 hijacking attacks. The 9/11 attacks had nothing to do with Afghans, the Taliban statement said. While none of the 11 September 2001 hijackers were Afghans, the mastermind of the attacks, Al-Qaeda chief Osama bin Laden, was given refuge by the Taliban government. The statement said the United States will face international blame and damage its relation with Afghan if decision was not reversed. Separately, in an interview to Afghan state media, RTA, Mullah Yaqub, the acting Afghan defense minister and the son of Taliban founder Mullah Umar, also termed the decision cruel. No Afghan was involved in the incident 9/11 at all, said Yaqub, whose father was the Taliban's supreme leader at the time of the attacks, and refused to hand over bin Laden, following which the United States sent in its military to Afghanistan. The invasion started a 20-year war that ended only last year after the United States and other international militaries pulled out of Afghanistan, leaving the Taliban to take over once again. Credit Middle East Monitor. So that's a very serious warning to the United States. So they have to make a decision. Is it worth to hold the money, 3.5 billion Afghan money, when the Afghans are suffering? That's a decision they have to make. But it's better to have a better relationship with these people for the safety of Americans and for the safety of the international community. It's a very tough one. And the people of Afghanistan are suffering. And who should pay the money for 9/11 victims? The Saudi Arabia government. And I think most of the hijackers are from Saudi Arabia. They are supposed to pay the victims of 9/11 instead of these poor Afghan people. But the United States decision is based on the relationship of the countries, based on financial gains. That's the challenge we are facing. The Saudi Arabia government is in a huge violation of international law by detaining Ethiopians in a horrible condition and forcing them to suffer in different diseases and closing them with the plastic bags and putting them in a tower, in a overcrowded jail. The United States is silent. The international community is silent because that country has a huge business dealing. So that is the situation. So the Taliban request makes sense. The Saudis must pay for 9/11 victims instead of holding the Taliban money. Thank you. That's the end of the reading materials. I have some videos to share from different medias. Then I will conclude today's presentation. There you go. Okay. There you go. The first one is about tension between Russia and Ukraine. Let me see. And Europe. Come on.
Secretary General will make a statement. We will not take any questions today. Good afternoon. I am deeply worried by the heightened tensions and increased speculation about a potential military conflict in Europe. The price in human suffering, destruction, and damage to European and global security is too high to contemplate. We simply cannot accept even the possibility of such a disastrous confrontation. I will remain fully engaged in the hours and days to come. I just spoke this morning with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation and of Ukraine. And my message is clear. There is no alternative to diplomacy. All issues, including the most intractable, can and must be addressed and resolved through diplomatic frameworks. It is my firm belief that this principle will prevail. The United Nations country team remains fully operational in Ukraine. As United Nations Secretary General, it is my duty to appeal for the full respect of the United Nations Charter, a fundamental pillar of international law. The Charter clearly says, and I quote, "All members shall settle their international disputes by peaceful means in such a manner that international peace and security and justice are not endangered. All members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state or any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations." The time is now to diffuse tensions and de-escalate actions on the ground. There is no place for incendiary rhetoric. Public statements should aim to reduce tensions, not inflame them. I welcome the recent flurry of diplomatic contacts and engagements, including between heads of state, but more needs to be done, and I expect all to intensify their efforts. I've made my good offices available, and we will have no stone unturned in the search for a peaceful solution. Abandoning diplomacy for confrontation is not a step over a line, it is a dive over a cliff. In short, my appeal is this: do not fail the cause of peace. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a warning from United Nations and on alternative way of resolving conflict. So I hope Putin is listening to this. Putin is a challenge now. Okay, we buy any car. We don't want to buy any car. No, we don't.
Thousands of Liberians marked the bicentenary of their country with a mass rally in the capital, Monrovia.
That's Liberia.
Liberia was founded by former U.S. slaves in 1822, becoming the continent's first republic in 1847. U.S. President Joe Biden sent a presidential delegation to take part in the celebrations.
We have made and endured 200 years of freedom and liberty and self-rule and self-government. And it's a reflection now, after 200 years, we're at a crossroads. We have to look at how we're going to lead our African-American continent into the next 200 years.
Between 1990 and 2003, the country was involved in a series of civil conflicts that resulted in more than 250,000 deaths.
We have a lot of work to do. We have fallen behind from a top-producing national gross domestic product country to the lowest producing and lowest income earning country on the continent with the richest resources. We are confident that we will turn this around.
In Ethiopia, the latest victims of the year-long war in Tigray are the country's rich artifacts. Centuries-old manuscripts and scrolls are being offered on websites for a few $100s, raising suspicion on the conditions of their acquisition. Experts suspect they have been plundered during the conflict. Ethiopian philologist Dr. Hagar Sabra Abey even published a first comprehensive analysis of the looting, revealing churches, monasteries, and other significant sites were targeted during the war. The trafficking of Ethiopian cultural goods existed, but since the war between the TPLF and federal authorities started, a surge in ancient artifacts for sale was observed. eBay removed from its platform a number of rare Ethiopian items with no evidence of provenance. If it is unclear how many objects were stolen, professors have recommended Internet users to upload the information to the Interpol Stolen Work of Art database if they come across Ethiopian object adverts.
Okay, so that is one of the impacts of civil war, losing your unique artifacts and people taking advantage of the war, looting and selling for just pennies and a dime. So that is one of the challenges coming with civil war. It's not the days of and the destruction of property, but also looting, giving taking advantage. Some people taking advantage of the situation and selling for cheap money. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Please share, comment, like my videos. I will be back with other news updates and analysis. Thank you. Be safe. So long, everyone.